All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Alberta Schools Athletic Association Town Hall. My name is Deanna Mitro, and I'm going to be your session moderator today. So we have a couple of different speakers who are going to be presenting for you this afternoon. Just a quick housekeeping note, please make sure that you do keep your microphones muted at all times unless asked to speak. We do have a very full agenda today, so we are going to ask that all questions you hold on to until the end of the session. We'll give you some information on how to ask questions at the end, but please make sure you hold on to those questions until we get through all of the information. This is going to be recorded and posted to the ASAA YouTube channel as well as on the main page of our website. So for anyone that may have been missing some of the content, or if you have to step out early, that's where you can access it in the future. So our speakers today, we have our Executive Director, John Payton, who will be bringing some updates on behalf of the organization. We have our SPAR consultant, Marvin Dobish, joining us on behalf of the Government of Alberta. We have Alex Lane, who is our account executive for Huddle, who is a new official supplier for the Alberta Schools Athletic Association. And we have Shannon Klassen, who is the executive director of the CIAAA and is going to be bringing you some updates about some professional development opportunities for school athletic directors and others. So welcome, everyone. Today, we have a wide range of topics we will be covering. There's various updates from the office that John will address. I have a few items I will speak to as well. We will have Alex do a 10-minute presentation for us about the programs and services offered by Huddle as an official supplier for the ASAA. Alex is also going to stay on at the end of the town hall to address any additional questions that you may have afterwards. So if you want to ask any questions of Alex after his presentation, feel free to stay on at the end of the town hall for that. Marvin's going to bring us some updates on behalf of the SPAR branch of the Government of Alberta. John is also going to address an update on behalf of CAS, which is our College of School Superintendents organization. And then again, Shannon will address some professional development updates on behalf of CIAAA. All questions will be at the end. And if you have anything you need along the way, just let me know anytime. John, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Deanna, and welcome everybody. I hope it's been a great start to the school year, certainly on a very positive note. We are hearing from many of our schools anecdotally and otherwise that the number of student athletes coming out to programs right across the province are really fantastic this year. That some of the crowds in some of the big city football games are way above what one might normally expect in a normal year. So there are some really good stories out there, and we'd love to have you share some of those with us. But I want to thank all of you for your understanding over the past 6 weeks or so as our staff has been dealing with the daily calls and voice messages and emails that really have been exponential compared to previous years. And the staff is doing everything they can to respond in the space of 1 to 2 days. But when we come into sometimes 160 communiques and that have come in overnight, the staff is addressing them on a first come, first serve basis and trying to get them done within a business day or two. So they're doing their best, and I thank the staff, their work during this unprecedented time, and I thank you for your patience of the staff as we're working our way through this. So as we look at some of the things, the common questions that are coming across our desk, if you want to advance the next slide there, Deanna. I'm going to talk a little bit about Provincial Championships, questions that we've received around, postponing versus cancellation, how decisions are made, and so on. And I'll do the best I can, but as long as, I'd hope that people would understand that any decision that occurs with an awful lot of deliberation by many people and consultation with many other groups, and no decision that's made by the executive is made unilaterally and always with the support of our zones. So question around why postpone golf and not cross country? That's probably the biggest elephant in the room, a lot of events that I've been to. So to answer that question, when the public state of health emergency was declared on September 15, we were less than 12 days out from the start of golf provincials. And the public health order was issued 3 days later, September 18, and we only found out about it the next day on the Sunday and spent the next 2 days connecting with multiple groups to to try and determine which direction the executive is going to take. So that included Alberta Health Services, Superintendent Association, Ministry of Culture, our Golf Commissioner, the Championship host, and many others. And we reviewed all the available data that was available to us. And then on the Monday night, 1 week prior to, or 6 days prior to provincial starting, the executive met to discuss this, to look at all the data, and then determine what they felt were their options, and what would be in the best interests of student athletes and coach and event host survey. So the case rates in schools and across the province at the time were soaring. Hospitalizations were going up very rapidly. ICU availability was becoming dangerously low. And there was a very short timeline of the executive to make a decision. And that's sort of critical in this whole discussion. The timeline that they had to make a decision on was very, very short. The executive was aware that that some zone golf championships had already been held, and the others were happening in the next day or two. So despite the risk mitigation that was planned for golf provincials, there were a number of factors that the executive felt they needed to consider before making a decision. And ultimately, they felt it was in the best interests of all parties to postpone the event, not to cancel the event, because last year, as you would know, events were either postponed or cancelled, and ultimately everything was cancelled. They want to try to avoid to do that this year. So many factors were considered in their decision. Some of which were, a 2-day event requires overnight stays for most athletes, which increases the risk of socialization and COVID spread, which was rapidly, and there were rapidly rising cases in many areas, and increasing hospitalization, and the fact that zone representatives had already been determined. It was felt there would need to be a full season of golf in the spring, and that we could take the athletes who had qualified for provincials and had the opportunity to run a provincial championship for them in the spring, which is exactly what was happening. Many things were discussed by the executive, even pulling back the number of athletes, which they didn't go for, reducing it from a 2-day event to a 1-day event, which they didn't go for. They wanted to try and maintain the true nature of the provincial championship. So lots of things were taken into account. In the case of cross country, due to the volume of the athlete numbers involved, a lot more than golf, and athletes who often play other sports which are held in the spring, the executive had more time to analyse the circumstances, government policy and direction, school board policy and direction, to seek legal input on cautionary and risk prevention measures, and having the time to create and enforce the completion of acknowledgement forms and waiver forms. It was felt that with a reduction of on-site participants across country and many, many other measures, and perhaps later in the discussion here, Deanna or one of the executive might be able to pop up the risk mitigation that we have in place for cross country. It was felt that with those other measures in place, the event could go ahead. The executive was not prepared to put students and coaches in a conflict of interest situation in the spring, where they have to make a school team sport choice, especially given that spring sports had already lost 2 championship years, and our fall sports had only lost 1. So it was a matter of balance, and the executive, having some more time to consider the options and consult with lots of parties, the decision was made to run a modified event, 10 athletes per category instead of 18, reducing from 864 down to 480 participants, spreading out of the races, so there's more chance for people to come and go without interacting with one another. So without a modified event being in place, it was most likely that the cross-country provincials for this fall would have been cancelled. So that said, I'm pleased that we are having an event moving forward. Another question that's come up for us is regarding the postponing or cancelling of other sports. And as the COVID landscape is changing on a daily basis, that is ongoing changes to government directives, ongoing changes in school jurisdictions regarding local restrictions, vaccine mandates being different across school jurisdictions and more, it's hard to plan ahead. But the executive committee has determined that at this time, unless circumstances warrant modification, a decision to proceed with, to postpone or to cancel volleyball and football provincials in November will be made 3 weeks out from the event. It's not ideal, but it's unlike last year when the decisions were made 6 weeks out. It was pretty clear last fall that the chances of school sport occurring were becoming less and less as the government of Alberta restrictions were put in place to limit sport, and more school jurisdictions were cancelling school sports practices and competition. However, this year, as I mentioned earlier, school sports have been occurring in schools right across the province, and the indication is that school jurisdictions and schools are excited to see our schools come alive again with school sports occurring. So the staff and the executive of the ASAA, our sport commissioners, event hosts of volleyball, football will continue to monitor the COVID-related environment, and the executive will make decisions accordingly. And please note that no change to any provincial date or structure can be made unilaterally by the executive committee without the support of a minimum of the 8 zones of the ASAA, which means a minimum of 5 zones. And obtaining that level of support is a process we have followed for the last 18 months in relation to any school sport matter affected by COVID. So as for sports occurring after Christmas, we are hoping to have a longer timeline in place for decision making, but we'll have to be cognizant of the impact of a constantly changing fourth wave of COVID environment and the related government and local mandates that are being forced on our association. Criteria for postponing or cancelling. So back in early September, we indicated in a newsletter that our criteria for postponing or cancelling an event were that there are not enough participants or zones registered to host a championship, or the Alberta government prohibits it, or that no championship host is in place a month out from the championship. That was before the dramatic impact of the fourth wave was really as much upon us as has become in the last 2 weeks. So as case numbers grew, hospitalization numbers grew, ICU rates became dramatic, and deaths rose, and different restrictions were coming into place at the provincial, municipal, community, and school levels. The executive had to modify their criteria to do what they believe was in the best interests and health and safety of students, coaches, and others when it came to making those decisions on postponing or cancelling provincials. So they have certainly taken into account all the information done by the Sports Season Committee last year, which provided great guidelines. But they realise as well that they need to, as an executive, remain very fluid in how they make decisions moving forward in what is a constantly changing environment. But yet on the upside, we're having sports, and that's a great thing. And the executive is really excited at the things that are happening at the zone level. Another question we got, and these are questions we got prior to the town hall, so I'm trying to address them in advance for you. Following the criteria just noted, it really is impossible at this time to answer the question on whether or not we foresee provincials being cancelled or not. We will just do whatever we can to stay on top of the most up-to-date information and make decisions accordingly. There was another question around AHS requirements versus ASAA, and why we just don't follow the AHS requirements and why we are being more restrictive. So at minimum, the ASAA has been and will continue to follow the direction of Alberta Health Services. If the executive staff and the zones feel that the ASAA needs to introduce additional cautionary and preventative measures to ensure the safety of student athletes, coaches, and volunteers and others, it will do so. The science is clearly in support of masking and physical distancing, so the ASAA would be adopting these principles at this time for indoor and outdoor events, where it is practical to do so. Obviously not practical for a football player to wear a mask when they're playing in a game. As for vaccine mandates, the current executive position is that whereas school jurisdictions right now are not requiring proof of vaccination for student athletes, they as an executive are not prepared to go in that direction. But it remains an open discussion on all matters related to COVID, and if things change at government or change at school district level, then they'll be considered by the executive committee as well. They don't make any decision without very thoughtful consideration, and depending on the circumstance, without advice from the association's lawyer. So guidance was requested on what teams in volleyball are to do at provincials if they are not permitted to stay in the gym while they are not playing. Again, as the COVID climate is changing day to day, we'll be working with the hosts to address this as best we can. However, local school jurisdiction policies and procedures around students and others in school spaces will be the minimum standard in the building where provincials are being hosted, and we expect it will vary from one school jurisdiction to another. So whatever's occurring at that school jurisdiction will be the minimum standards in place for that particular championship. So that will be a work in progress. There are two other questions I'll answer for you. Again, then I'd covered off most of the questions in one way or another before we move on to onto subsequent slides. The next one is on student eligibility. And so fourth year students and appeals. So we've been asked about the process for allowing fourth year students to play sports this year. And it was decided by the ASAA Board of Governors back in June of 2020 and relayed to our membership many times since that there will be no automatic fourth years granted for student athletes. It has been decided that, as in any other year, if there are member schools who feel that there are exceptional circumstances regarding why a student was not able to complete their high school schooling in 3 years, they are welcome to submit an appeal through the sport registration system or the SRS portal under appeals. So we'll be following that same process, and we have an excellent appeals committee of educators who will be handling all of those appeals. The next one is around ASAA membership fees. So we had previously indicated on more than one occasion that the ASAA will be rebating to our schools as a membership fee discount, an equal amount per registered member school this year that had paid their membership fees last year. And how that will work is that our fiscal year end is August 31. And in the next couple of weeks, we will get our draft audit back from our auditor. And the executive committee will ratify the membership fee discount based on what that surplus is. So we're waiting to see what the surplus is. Could be $40,000, could be $50,000. There are always adjustments that the auditor makes at the end of the year. But please note that the executive has put a holdback of $10,000 on that to assist hosts of our championships this year in the event that they need COVID-related assistance with things like PPE, sanitation measures, and so on. Now, if that $10,000 is not utilised during this calendar year, it will come back to the member schools as a discount on an equal by all schools on membership fees for 22-23. So I think I've gotten through most of the questions that have been forwarded to us, and there will be time later on to ask questions as well. So at this point, I will turn it back to Deanna to take us to the next step. Thanks, Deanna.
So in the town hall registration, we had quite a few members request what the information was on the modified coaching requirements. So a simple reminder for everyone that the Board of Governors approved a modified list of coaching requirements for the 21-22 school year. Again, it is only for the 21-22 school year. So one staff member in every school is required to complete coaching school sport redefining winning. Normally that is by October 10th. For this year, you have until June 30th to meet that expectation. One team official on every single team, either a coach, teacher, sponsor, etc., on every team is required to complete the bylaws and policies course by June 30th. And please note that this course is not available until February 2022. So there's no expectation for schools to be completing this module at that time. Now, every team official is still required to complete making headway by 1 month into that respective season of play for that sport. However, ASAA will not be requiring proof of completion for SRS registration this year. That will change next year for 22-23. So make sure you are on top of collecting those NCCP numbers from your coaches. For those of you who are athletic directors, you will need to collect those NCCP numbers next year for registration. So best to get on top of that for now. So now at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Alex from Huddle to give us some more information.
Hey, thank you. Can everyone hear me? We good? Awesome. Okay. Let me just mute or move this so I can see. Cool. So yes, my name is Alex Lane. I'm the account executive for Canada. And today I'm just going to talk about Huddle and our partnership with the ASAA. I do have a lot of material to cover, so it's going to be pretty rapid fire, but I will be staying on after. So if anyone has any questions or anything later on, feel free to stick around and we can talk about Huddle. So agenda for today, I'm just going to talk about what Huddle is, what Huddle Assist is, our Huddle Focus camera, live streaming options, and then our athletic department package. So a little bit about me. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I went to Semiahmoo Secondary where I played football, basketball, volleyball, and rugby. From there, I received a scholarship to come down to the States and play football in college in Nebraska. And then after graduation, I accepted a coaching position where I coached for 2 years at Doane University. And that's really where kind of my perspective changed a lot on video and recruiting, because I was able to kind of see how all that works on the back end. And then from there, I got the job at Hudl, and I've been here ever since. So I'm a huge advocate for Canadian athletes and coaches, and that's really why I do what I do, and try to expand the use of video for all sports, not just football, in Canada. So Hudl is the industry standard. 16,000 plus high schools across the US and Canada use Hudl. 95% of Division I schools use Hudl. 20 out of 20 English Premier League team soccer or teams use Hudl. Canada basketball, and 29 out of 30 NBA teams use Hudl. So we are missing one team. Everyone always thinks it's the Raptors, but it's actually the Dallas Mavericks because Mark Cuban has his own thing going on, but we'll see if we can get him someday. So yes, Hudl's leading media platform for high school sports. So 180,000 teams across US and Canada, and actually 99% of high schools in the US use Hudl. So we're trying to get that number up in Canada, but we'll see what we can do. 70,000 or 7,000 games are uploaded per week to Hudl from high school teams as well. So these are really the three kind of pillars that we do. So there's the recording portion, the reviewing, and then the sharing. So recording can be done a number of ways, whether that's an external camera, whether that's an iPad where you record directly through Hudl, or whether that's our Hudl Focus camera that is linked up directly to your Hudl accounts. From there, once the video is recorded, it's then uploaded into your Hudl account where you can then review the video, look at the stats, look at all that stuff, and interact with your athletes within the Hudl platform. And then from there, you have the ability to share. So sharing either clips like playlists that you create, or whether that's highlights with your athletes, or it's whether that's highlights that you want to share externally to college recruiters, or even for the athletes' families if they want to see how their kid is doing in sports. So there's a lot of different options that you have with the sharing portion as well. So what is Hudl? Hudl is one platform for team improvement. So it gives you the ability to analyze and distribute content from a single secure platform that you can access from anywhere. So everything is stored on the cloud. So no matter if you're on your laptop or your phone, you will have access to all of the information on your Hudl account. You're also able to exchange video with other teams through Hudl. If that team is not on Hudl, you can also send them an email where they can go and download that video. You also do have the ability to download the video onto an external hard drive if you want to keep it on an external hard drive as well. You're also able to keep everyone in sync. So a lot of teams use this to message their athletes, right? So everyone has access to this. So if you want to have just one individual message with one of your coaches or one of your athletes, you can just message them. If it's a team-wide thing, whether you're organizing practices or game times or whatever the case is, you do have that ability as well. So Hudl Assist. Hudl Assist is our automated stats and reporting system. So how this works is once the game is recorded and uploaded into your Hudl account, you can then submit that to Assist. So we just ask you a couple questions, what your jersey color are, what the opposing team's jersey color are, so we know who's who you're playing against, and what the final score was. Then from there, our analysts actually watch the whole game, stat everything manually, and then send it back to you within 24 hours. So what you get back from that are going to be reports. So they're sport-specific reports. So whether you're doing basketball, volleyball, soccer, ice hockey, lacrosse, we do all those sports. So for basketball, you're going to get a shot chart. For ice hockey, you're going to get a shot chart. For volleyball, you're going to get an attack tendencies report. So all these things are linked directly back to video too, which is the super cool thing. So if you go and click that 83%, so 5 of 8 from the left block, it'll pull up all 8 of those clips. So everything is correlated, which is what makes this pretty awesome, to be honest. So from there, on the actual video player, you're able to filter by different things that you want to see. So you can filter by your team, the opponent's team, or your individual athletes or their individual athletes. So if you wanted to see your team's turnovers, you can go and filter by your team's turnovers. It'll pull up all of your turnovers. Then from there, you can create a playlist and then share that with your athletes. what you can also do is go through and add coaching notes. So a lot of coaches ask their athletes, like, what were you supposed to do here? Or why did you do this? And then they can actually have a conversation within that video clip, figuring out what's going on. We also do have drawing tools, so you can do spot, shadows, arrows, or a free draw tool to highlight whatever you need to show them. Huddle Focus. So this is our live stream camera. It's been out in the States for about 3 years now, but we just got it approved by the Canadian government because there's a lot of privacy laws in Canada that we have to abide by. Just got approved this last year. So super excited about that. It's the only camera that is linked up with Huddle. So it's automatically recording capabilities through your schedule. So when you upload, you're playing Ross Shepherd at 7 p.m. on October 30th. The camera recognizes that and will automatically start recording that game and upload it into your account once it's done. So it's permanently mounted on your wall. Has broadcasting and live streaming capabilities, which I'll touch on here in a second. Automatic recording, which I talked about. It is HD video, so it's 1080p. We also have a scoreboard overlay. So as long as the scoreboard is not on the wall that the camera is mounted on, we can go in when we're calibrating the camera, find that scoreboard, and then we overlay it on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen so that anyone watching the live stream can always see what the score is and what the time is going on during that game. Real-time player tracking. So for basketball, the camera actually moves back and forth. So there's 3 lenses that it splices between. So it has the ability to actually track the game. So it looks like someone's actually manning the camera, but it's 100% automatic. There is also a microphone in it, so you will have audio for your live streams and recordings. A lot of schools actually like to use this for band or choir concerts, or if graduation is in their gym. Anything that really is happening in the gym can be recorded and live streamed. Also has self-updating technology, so if we have any software updates, it will automatically be updated, and we do have a dedicated support team for Focus specifically. So once you have a Focus camera, you're a part of the Focus Exchange Network. So yes, you have a camera at home, but what happens when you go and play an away game, right? So if another team that you're playing against has a Focus camera, you will automatically get that video recorded and into your account once it's done. If you go and play, obviously, at a team that doesn't have a Focus camera, you just bring in the same camera that you would use previously to record your games and then upload it into your account that way. Live streaming portion. So we understand that a lot of schools have different wants and needs for live streaming. So we really give you the ability to do whatever that you want to do, whether that's live streaming for free or if you want to charge people to watch your live stream. We just provide the camera as the video source that allows you to do whatever you want to do with it. So this is a good just kind of diagram of how it works. So the video source is the Focus camera. If you want to live stream for free just directly to YouTube, it is already integrated with YouTube. So you can just toggle on or off that you want to live stream to YouTube and you're done. If you want to do a more intricate broadcast coverage, whether you want to do like voiceovers or actually have someone announcing the game or video overlays, you can do that through a third-party broadcast software. And then from there, it will go to the destination that you choose, whether that's YouTube or NFHS or whatever platform that you want it to be on. This is just an example of how some other schools have utilized sponsorships through their live stream. So using OBS, you can overlay ads on the video directly, or you can have a landing page directly on your website where that live stream is, and then surround that by some sponsorship. So you do have options on how to also fundraise using this live stream. So our athletic department packages. So this is our full school-wide packages that offers every product that we have for however many teams that you have at the school. So through our partnership with the ASAA, we're able to offer our products at a discount, which is super exciting for me because being from Canada, I know that it's a lot different than the States where it's the revenue isn't the same, right? So my idea of being able to get Huddle in more athletes and coaches' hands is by making it more affordable, right? So through this partnership, we're able to do that. And that's something that's super exciting for me. So these are the discounts that we have for every ASAA member. You actually get 50% off of your Huddle account and additional discounts off of Huddle Assists, depending on the sport. And then 30 to 50% discount for school-wide packages. That's everything that I have. Hopefully I stay within 10 minutes. I talk pretty fast, but if anyone needs any more information, I will also drop a link in the chat, just a form that you can fill out if you can't stick around for the end of this town hall. And then I'll reach out to you and we can have a one-on-one discussion and figure out what would work best for your school. All right, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Alex. I know for a lot of our member schools who have used Huddle's program services and products, they have absolutely nothing but wonderful, glowing reviews to say about it. So like I mentioned before, Alex is going to stay on the line with us. So at the end of the town hall, if you'd like to stick around and ask Alex a couple of questions, he's made himself available for that. There's also the link he's going to put in the chat for you if you want to fill out your information, and you can set up a private one-on-one discussion with him afterwards. So now at this time, we're going to move along to our next speaker, which is Marvin Dobish, who is our SPAR rep from the Government of Alberta. Marvin, you have the floor.
All right, well, good afternoon, everybody, and hopefully everyone's doing well. It's a beautiful sunny afternoon up here in Northern Alberta, so hopefully it's sunny down south as well. So thanks again to Deanna and John and George for allowing me to be on the agenda for this afternoon's town hall. Just before we get started, I just want to take a moment and just commend everybody with the ASAA for what you guys have had to endure and what you're doing, and just the constant pivoting with respect to your schools and your athletic programs. And it certainly has been appreciated by everybody across the province. But here we are yet again. We're dealing with a health emergency situation, and it certainly has been challenging on a number of fronts. And John outlined a lot of those challenges, and those were just a brief synopsis of what's been going on. And then certainly behind the scenes, there have been hundreds and hundreds of conversations and meetings that have taken place to look at, trying to determine what's the best thing here moving forward with respect to, school sport and provincial championships. So please know that they're doing all that they possibly can. But as John iterated, and the reason we're here today is that we do have some good news. Sport is occurring across the province, and that's a good thing from where we have been. And for the most part over this summer, it was pretty much as normal as we could expect, with safety protocols being observed as necessary, by each provincial sport organization or their respective member organizations. So we had a pretty successful summer when it came to a lot of those summer sports. Now, as the school sports season kicked off last month, and certainly a number of districts and zones and leagues and schools began enforcing their own restrictions, others returned essentially to pretty much normal. So we're seeing, a real cross section of different things happening across the province. However, as the COVID cases numbers begin to rise and then skyrocket, here we are, we're talking about, restrictions and exemptions and different protocols again. And hopefully, the numbers will peak here in the next little bit, and we'll start to see those numbers decline as we move from, the outdoor school sports into, the planning for the indoor sports, especially with volleyball provincials coming up, in just over a month's time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to talk a little bit about what's been happening here the last little bit, and just kind of give you an overview. And then, I'll be available, and I'll stay on if we need to do some clarifications or try to answer some of your questions as best as possible. But currently, when it comes to school activities, Alberta Health has stipulated that indoor sports, fitness, recreation, and performance activities are still permitted in schools at this point in time. And that hasn't changed since the beginning of the school year. And certainly we saw some announcements, and there were a lot of rumblings over the last week that, maybe, schools were going to be moving to online, and what would the implications be as it came to extracurricular activities. However, at this point, everything is still a go. So when it comes to those activities, when youth are ages 18 and under, so that 12 to 17 age bracket, when they're engaged in physical activity, they're not required to mask or distance. So that would mean essentially when you're on the field of play that you can participate as normal. However, when you're not engaging in physical activity, you certainly should be maintaining 2 meters of physical distancing wherever possible. And then masking certainly would be at the discretion of what the school's policies are, or if it's an ASAA event, then they'll determine what the respective policy will be for masking outside of the actual field of play. Alberta Health has indicated that when it comes to spectator attendance, it should be restricted to 1/3 of the fire code capacity of the actual facility within the school, so that being a gymnasium, and it should be limited to households or to close contacts for those living alone. And certainly we've seen in many instances where stronger restrictions have been developed when it comes to spectators and visitors to schools. And those are ever changing on an ongoing basis. And just then, it indicates that all spectators, must be masked and distanced at all point in time. When it comes to outdoor activities, and we talked a little bit about those earlier when it came to golf, and now as we plan for cross-country running provincials next week, all outdoor activities can continue with no restrictions. And so that's certainly has been a good thing in regards to those outdoor sports, as well as for football, which is actively taking place as well. And hopefully that will continue right through the end of the football season and the provincial championships. However, on Tuesday of this week, the province made an announcement in regards to indoor and outdoor social gatherings. And so this has again caused some questions to arise, but essentially right now, it's our understanding that these restrictions or guidance that have come out only apply to private gatherings. It would not be applicable to any events or spectator activities. And so I know earlier this week, actually, in fact, yesterday, George and I were exchanging some communication on that, and he indicated that Edmonton Public was looking at putting some restrictions around, the number of spectators for football and what some of the restrictions were going to be. So I'm sure we're going to see other districts and zones and leagues looking at, different types of policies when it comes to their spectators, as everyone is looking to, try to maintain as safe as possible environment as possible. But I will reiterate that it's our understanding that these, gatherings only apply to private indoor and outdoor gatherings at this point in time. So Dee, maybe you can flip to the next slide then. So the first one, I talked a lot about the school activities, but what about some of the other youth activities outside of school? So community sport. So as of September the 16th, indoor training, practices, games, and tournaments are permitted. However, participants are required to be screened for symptoms. Again, masking and distancing should be in place. However, not required when they're actually engaged in the physical activities. So, that would be on the field of play. So as the volleyball season and the community basketball season have been able to get off and running, then, participants can pretty much participate as normal while on the field of play. Masking is not required when not engaged in physical activity. Masking is required when not engaged in physical activity. So that's, we've seen, different ways that that's being interpreted, but essentially, what my recommendation has been is that, if you're on the bench or you're in your dressing or change rooms outside of the field of play, foyers, coming in and out of the building, then, we should be looking at masking as much as possible. Again, spectator attendance is restricted to 1/3 fire code capacities, and again, attendees limited to a single household or two close contacts of living alone, and should be masked and maintaining distances. And again, for all community outdoor sports or any outdoor activities, those can continue without any restrictions. And so certainly that bodes well for anybody who's continuing to run outdoor stuff. Okay, the next slide, please, Deanna. Okay, so back on September the 16th, the province made a fairly significant announcement in regards to the restrictions exemption program, or what's being referred to as the REP program. And we're not talking about rep hockey or soccer or anything. We're talking about the restrictions exemption program here. So essentially the program went into effect on September 20th. And what I'll say is that for the last 3 weeks, it's caused an endless number of questions, inquiries, and interpretations for Alberta businesses and programmers. So along with my colleagues at SPAR and provincial sport organizations, facility operators, Alberta Health, BizConnect, we've all been trying to deal with this, and what exactly does it mean? Because again, it's something new that we're dealing with. We're not actually dealing with specific restrictions, but we're talking about restrictions in regards to an exemption program. So one of the biggest challenges obviously has been for facility operators. They've been handed a new set of operational requirements for the province. It certainly has been proven to be extremely challenging for them. However, the good news is that they were not forced to close and can continue to operate. And so that's been a positive in that sense. So the REP program allows what's being noted as in-scope businesses. And so I've just put a few examples there, including recreation facilities for physical activity or performance activities such as arenas, gyms, pools, gymnastic centers, curling rinks, etc. Entities and organizers to operate without most of the health restrictions as outlined in Health Order 45, 2021. So on the COVID Public Health Actions webpage, you can find a comprehensive list of in-scope and out-of-scope businesses. And you will all know that schools and post-secondary institutions are considered out-of-scope businesses. And so, but most other recreation and physical fitness facilities, gyms, would be considered in scope. To accompany and to support that health order, there's a REP guidance document. And that document, in my opinion, is probably the most comprehensive document that's available right now that explains the restrictions exemption program. And it really explains in understandable terms how REP actually works for the most part. So under the REP programming, indoor masking remains mandatory. Businesses or operators, you do not need to apply to participate in REP, but you must follow or exceed the program requirements all times. And when I say at all times, that doesn't mean that, when you are in, high attendance times of the days. So, right after school or into the evenings, you have to adopt REP. And then during your quieter times, you cannot. Essentially, the restriction indicates that you should be, adopting it at all points in time. And basically what it indicates is that it requires all patrons, so those would be people entering your facility, not including your employees or your staff, ages 12 and over, to provide valid proof of vaccination or proof of a privately paid negative rapid test result taken within 72 hours of participation or entering that facility, or finally documentation of a medical exemption. So those are kind of the three key components of the restrictions exemption program if it's adopted by what's called a business within scope. Next slide, please, Dee. So once the program was announced back on the 16th, we got additional communication over the next 3-4 days, and we're trying to figure out exactly what does this mean and how is it going to be implemented. And essentially, as we discussed that out, we determined that there were going to be most likely 3 scenarios when it came to the restrictions exemption program and how it would be applied by facility operators and programmers. And I'm going to give a little bit of a shout out here to Hockey Alberta, because we worked fairly closely with them and their leadership team as they collaborated with a number of their stakeholders, because as you can imagine, when this announcement came out, it created major havoc within the hockey world, because many local minor hockey associations were going through evaluations and tryouts and placement of athletes on teams. So their facilities were really, kind of up against the wall here in terms of how they could continue to operate in that regard. So what we came up with was kind of 3 scenarios. These are not official scenarios that have been adopted by Alberta Health. These are, as I mentioned, what Hockey Alberta has developed, but I think they're really good, and I wanted to share them with you. So essentially, scenario number 1 for the restrictions exemption program indicates that all facility users 12 years of age and older, including participants, so that would be your athletes, your coaches, your officials, and your volunteers and your spectators, must provide proof of vaccination, a negative test, or medical exemption. That one's fairly straightforward. Then the second option would be exemptions for youths aged 12 to 17 while participating in physical activity. Now, if you recall that week of September the 20th, Dr. Hinshaw came out a couple of days into that week and indicated that facility operators could provide an exemption for youth to provide proof of vaccination. And so we've seen that now where some facilities have adopted that for that age group, just to make it, less challenging and to, create an opportunity there where youth wouldn't have to be providing proof. But what essentially, this is how it's being explained. Participants are exempt from the province, participants are exempt from providing proof of vaccination, negative test, or medical exemption, while adult coaches and officials must provide proof or a negative test or an exemption. Volunteer coaches and officials in that age range of 12 to 17 are exempt, and all spectators must provide proof of vaccination or negative test or medical exemption. Now, the one question that came up was, what about ages youth 12 to 17 who are participating in adult sport? So certainly we see a lot of crossover in that kind of 15 to 17 age range with 18 to 20-year-olds if it comes to certain sports, be it hockey, football, lacrosse, curling. There's probably a whole host of others. So essentially what is being required is that they must provide proof of vaccination or the negative test or exemption. And then the third scenario is we have seen a number of facilities which have decided not to adopt the restrictions exemption program. So there is an opportunity for all users, they must mask and physically distance when they're not participating in physical activity. The only exception in this case is that coaches and officials who are on the field of play and engaged in the physical activity. So if they're actually, in the gymnasium or on the ice surface and they're actively, participating in the demonstration or participating in drills or teaching, they're fine. If they were to, come up along the boards and pull out the whiteboard and start diagramming or, doing things like that, then they would be allowed to remove their masks. So essentially within this scenario, there's an opportunity for those facilities that have not adopted REP, whereby the programmer can adopt REP. And so we've seen that also in certain areas of the province, in some rural areas where the facility has chosen not to adopt REP, but the programmer can come in. So then they would be responsible for doing all the implementation when it comes to the vaccine checks, the proof of negative test, or looking at the medical exemption. And so the reason I wanted to highlight the REP program is that I know that a lot of you that are athletic directors, you're going to be looking to access facilities outside of your schools if you have not already, but certainly in the foreseeable future. So you certainly really want to check with your respective facility to see what they're doing in terms of the REP program. We've seen so many different scenarios over the last number of weeks and how they play out when it comes to facility operators and community users versus school program users in terms of the REP requirements. So the main message there is just make sure you have that open communication and find out exactly what's happening in your respective area. And we've seen everything from the mandatory bylaws come into effect in Calgary to a phased-in approach that's been bantered around here in Edmonton, to what's occurring in some of the other areas of the province that haven't even looked at or will be looking at adopting the restrictions exemption program. So that kind of brings to a close what I've got to share at this point in time. So in closing, I just want to take opportunity to wish all of you and your families a safe and happy Thanksgiving. Continue to stay well, and thank you for keeping your schools as safe as possible as we deal with this yet again, another wave. But on the good news front, it is exciting to see the amount of high school sport that's taking place across the province, and certainly looking forward to hearing about the cross-country running provincials next week in Red Deer. And I'll turn it back over to you, Dee, and we'll continue on with the agenda.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Marvin. And I'd just like to take a moment on behalf of ASAA to thank Marvin. I cannot express the amount of time that Marvin invests into supporting our association, making sure we have all the resources we need, all the information we need, and supporting our executive committee in zones as they make some very difficult decisions during this pandemic. So Marvin, thank you for all that you do for school sport here in Alberta. I'm
You're most
also
welcome. Thanks.
we are going to skip ahead one slide here and have our CIAAA representative give us a short update, because I know Shannon has a coaching commitment she's got to run off to shortly here. So Shannon, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Deanna. I'm just going to share my screen here. 1 second. Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Shannon, the Executive Director of the CIAAA. So I did take over from Drew Hansen, who some of you may know or recognize the name, in January of 2021. So I'm just going to take some time and provide a bit of a brief update on CIAAA, what we've got going on, maybe introduce the CIAAA to you if some of you have never heard about it before. So here we go. So what is the CIAAA? You may have heard that acronym places, seen emails. What is it? We are the Canadian Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association. So really what we do as an organization is provide professional development, support, resources, workshops, courses to athletic directors across Canada. Mainly working with BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, but do have kind of reach across the country. So we're here to support you in building character and leadership in your students in your school. So moving through a couple things here. So what do? We have a series of 18 leadership training program courses. Now these courses are 3 hours in length online or 4 hours in person. They are all courses that are created by athletic directors for athletic directors. So they're going to take you through things like how to build your athletic handbook in your school. They're going to teach you about legal issues that you may not know that you might have to come across as an athletic director. So they're very informative courses that are very kind of useful to your role as an athletic director, especially if you're brand new in the role. Great way to start out. If you've been in the role for 20 years, there's still something for you within those courses. We also host a series of workshops that are 60-minute workshops. As a member of the ASAA, these workshops are free to you. So if you have a local professional development day or a teachers convention, or if you just have a group of athletic directors and coaches that you want us to run a workshop for, we'll certainly do that kind of anytime, any place that you ask. And our big kind of marquee event each year is our national conference. Last year, we were forced online due to COVID. We were slated to be in Vancouver for April 2022, but we have just made the decision to move online as well, just to make sure we keep everybody safe. So the CIAAA also maintains an extensive resource bank. So it's available kind of at all hours of the day, 24/7 to you. It went through a big update over the summer to include specific sessions for new athletic directors. Some of the things you might find in there is budget templates, parent meeting templates. You're going to find sport-specific resources for coaching of all the sports that ASAA has. Lots of useful things in there to really help you make your job easier. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can take those templates and modify them how you wish. We also have a discussion forum that was launched at our conference last year. So it's a place for athletic directors to network with each other, ask questions, share resources, be a sounding board for those across the country. So it's a great opportunity to take advantage. We also have a 3-level certification program that you can all be a part of. It's composed of a series of courses, as well as experience that you have as an athletic director and in the school sport world. Finally, we do have a partnership with Grace College where you can receive a master's degree in athletic administration. So if you are looking to further your education and interested in school sport and want to keep yourself in that world, this master's degree is a great opportunity for you, and it is recognized in Alberta for salary purposes. So just moving a little bit further. So I did mention as ASAA members, you all receive a free CIAAA membership through your membership fees. So this membership allows you to get discounts, promo codes, kind of first crack at anything the CIAAA has. Again, as I mentioned, it allows you to host those free workshops or attend them anytime, any place, gives you access to all of those things I chatted about. You'll also be able to access discounts from our preferred partners and more exciting things. Now, the one thing with this membership is each year you do have to activate it. So to ensure that you can access all of these things, our activation, here's our simple instructions. There is a recording that I'll throw in the chat afterwards. To put it in a simple form, basically you're going to log into go to our website, ciaaa.ca, either log in or sign up for an account if you've never had one, select memberships. Go through all of the questions, and when you get to the payment piece, use this code hashtag ASAA21 exclamation mark. It will allow you to get that free membership. So something to just take advantage. Again, great opportunity to start, take a look at the resource bank. It's going to get you started with anything CIAAA. So just moving, as I mentioned, our national conference is going to be virtual this year. So it'll be offered at a reasonable cost for you to be able to access. It'll have everything from workshops to keynote speakers to courses, social activities, contests. It's a great opportunity for you to get some professional development without having to travel and take a lot of that time out of your day. Now, if you're not able to attend kind of all of the workshops or things during the day, they will be recorded. So you can still sign up, attend what you can, and watch what you've missed later. So it's a great opportunity. More information will be coming out in the coming months, but do keep an eye, mark your calendar, April 21st to 23rd, we will be online this year. Moving into that resource bank. So just if you're a new athletic director, great place for you to start. If you're a seasoned athletic director, take a look. There might be something that you've never used before and you might find useful. And if you have a resource that you think might be a great for another athletic director to use, send it over to me and I'm happy to include it in our resource bank. And that discussion forum, we have a committee that is committed to updating and keeping the conversation going in that discussion forum. It's composed of athletic directors from small schools, large schools, female athletic directors, male athletic directors. There's even some administrators there. So if you have a question, feel free, post it in that forum and it'll get you started and you'll get some answers from some athletic directors that may have the same questions as you do. And just moving into our certification program. So if you're looking for professional development to further yourself, to maybe move up in your school into a vice principal role or something like that, our certification is a great place to start. So we have a 3-level certification program. Each level just has a little bit more and more encompassed in it. Take a look on our website and it details out everything you need to know about that certification. And I'm happy to answer questions about those as well. So finally, their master's degree. Our master's degree is a great opportunity for athletic directors in the sense that it is a project-based master's degree. So what happens for every 2 courses you take with the CIAAA, you would do 1 project for your master's through Grace College. Now, these projects are fully customizable to you and your athletic department. So if you're looking to build a strategic plan for your athletic department, you can build it as a project. So basically when you're done, you are ready to implement it. I've seen athletic directors do programs such as building a tournament handbook. So whenever they're hosting a tournament, they can turn to that. So it's a really great program for you to get yourself up and running. Keep an eye on it. It is on the website. It's a great opportunity. Wanted to highlight, we have a fall webinar series coming up. We have 6 courses happening throughout October and November. They're great courses to get you started. If you're brand new to the role, maybe your 501 and 502 courses might be where you want to start. Or if you're interested in student leadership development or need to create a handbook, take a look at those courses. They're all great courses for you, have a lot of useful information that you can take right from the course and implement the next day. So something to consider. As an ASAA athletic director, you do receive a discount code with $25 off. So that discount code is up in the corner there. It is hashtag Alberta25. So please take advantage of the discount codes and we'd love to have you in those courses. With that, what now? Next steps. First step, activate that membership and then check out our resource bank and download some resources that will help you in your role. Get your login for the discussion forum. Take a look at those courses, watch for our further course schedules, follow us on social media to make sure you don't miss anything. We have some fun things happening this year. Great opportunities again for you to get involved with your fellow peers across the country. With that, here is my contact information. You can also find it on our website, ciaaa.ca. We hope to see you all soon. Good luck with your sports this year, and I wish you all the best.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, Shannon. The resources of the CIAAA are absolutely phenomenal. Please make sure you check out all that they have to offer. There's some great, wonderful support systems for you as ASAA members and as athletic directors in high schools. So at this time now, we were going to hear from our CAS representative, our superintendent's representative. Unfortunately, he was not able to join us this afternoon. So our executive director, John Payton, is going to bring us an update on behalf of CAS. So John, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Deanna. So I've been asked by CAS just to read something to you in their absence, and then we'll go through the survey together. So CAS, they regret that due to new and emerging commitments and to other responsibilities during this busy time, the David Keohane, the CAS executive director, and our CAS representative to ASAA, who is the Prairie Land Superintendent, Cam McCaig, cannot attend our meeting. However, he said, we are pleased to share the survey information that was just gathered from superintendents today, representing about 75% of school authorities in the province. We hope that this status update is helpful to you, but CAS would want to ensure that the information will not be used as an advocacy document for any staff members desiring to create changes to protocols that have already been established through superintendent deliberations and their respective boards and or their policy mandates. So the document is exclusively for awareness purposes for the ASAA and its members in order to know the current provincial status of extracurricular involvement through the current evolution of the pandemic and to respond to any questions that the association may receive. And this again from David. We hope that you discover that your important leadership work on behalf of students is making a difference in the best way possible. The results clearly support the case for balancing regionally autonomy for participation within precise and common regulatory parameters provided by the province and by ASAA, as well as for all zones participating within championships throughout the province. So that said, David also wanted me just to spend a bit of time going through the survey. I won't spend too much time as it'll be on your screen, and I'll invite you to review the comments on the screen. But there were what was great. A large number of school districts responded within the space of a day, which is, you know how busy superintendents are. So survey questions, athletics activities, they occur in your division, 96% yes. And then when we looked at the mitigation that's being adhered to, 40% are using only the provincial guidelines that were announced on September 15th, and the 60% are using the provincial guidelines announced then, in addition to a variety of division-specific protocols. And some of you will know of these protocols because they'll be in place in your school jurisdiction. But and you can see there's one there where the attendance at outdoor events is limited to 200 spectators. So again, it depends on the district and how they decide to implement additional COVID-related rules and procedures. If they're not offering athletics, which we know was only 4% of the respondents were not, it's concerns around COVID, and then I think must be maybe one or two boards are waiting until January of 2022 to allow school sports to go ahead. So as a system leader, I'm not going to read all of these to you. I'll just sort of highlight some of them as we go through. But and this is literally comments from superintendents. So there's a lot of them gave their open-ended answers, which I think is great. And so I'll just sort of jump in on the first one, which says that they should advocate. This is the CAS folks for consistent provincial approach to athletics with the Ministry of Education and the government, and with the ASAA, please advocate for consistency in ASAA sanctioned provincial events rather than leave the requirements up to each hosting school or school division. And of course, there are some inherent challenges in balancing where the authority lie in one issue versus another issue, and who was addressing it and who was not. But there are a number of them that talk about the safety of students and staff as paramount, and that needs to always stay top of mind. And you'll see that as we go through the document, again and again and again. So, but there are many of them that clearly say, I'm looking at point number 5 now, to allow them to continue for the sake of the students. And there are others as we go down the list that that talk about the benefits of mental health, overall well-being, and I think point 10 talks about the physical and mental health, and that interscholastic sports. And this is something that the executive committee have mentioned. Interscholastic sports are important regardless of whether or not provincials occur. Ideally, yes, in a perfect world, provincials will occur, but when one looks at the number of students who go to provincials, it's a small percentage of those students who play sports overall. So, so that's, again, that point number 10 is something that was in keeping with the way the executive committee have felt in their discussions. They want us to continue to have restrictions in place. They do want, the school districts are looking for clear guidelines. And one of the challenges for ASAA, and I think what's inherently unfair in what has been asked of the executive committee, is that the executive make tough decisions on postponements, on modifications, on cancellations. And those decisions, in my opinion, should be made at a high level, not by the 6 volunteers who have been thrust into the limelight to say, are we going to be a go or are we a no-go? So, you know, and I do appreciate those who have contacted us to say, we know how tough it is at the ASAA level, at the executive committee level, dealing with issues and trying to make those decisions that are being forced on you to make. So let's just hope that the decisions being made at a high level take some of that pressure off the executive, but nonetheless, the executive has risen to that pressure. And sometimes, you know, the tough decisions have to be made and people can be critical of those tough decisions. But if they sat in the room to listen to these impassioned educators advocating for school sport and to try and do as much as we can to keep them safe, you are very, very lucky as a membership to have the people that we have on our executive committee. So I thank those of them that might be on this call. So number 20 there, Deanna's sort of highlighted, I think on the screen, mental health, having activities in the school is critical. Student and community safety down to 24, and moving down to some of the others. Again, it's good for you to have the chance just to read those yourself. And I think the superintendents, they want the ASAA to include system leaders in their discussions. One of the things that we have done over the course of the last 18 months, again, so our membership is aware, is that very early we realized that because decisions that are coming out from the association, you know, postponing, cancellation, modification, and so on, are very, very complex and sometimes very emotionally charged, that, that we make sure that the superintendents, who the teachers or the principals might be calling as soon as they get something from us, that they are in the loop, so that we're advising them in advance what communications we're putting out. And we've been doing that through the course of the last 18 months. There are some things that are pretty basic. We don't have to run by this. It involves a decision to go outside of convention or outside of the norm. We've been connecting with the superintendents. We run it by them. They give us their feedback, and then we send it to them so that they can get it to their superintendents a couple of hours before it goes out to the principals from our office. So again, just some process things. They will take time, but we're very fortunate, I think, when you look at this this list of 29 superintendents who took the time to write a note. It tells us that they care about athletics, that athletics is on their radar, and they want school sports to continue as long as the environment in which it's occurring is safe. So I want to thank, in their absence, Cam McCaig and David Keohan from CAS for doing the survey, for sharing it with us, and letting you as our member schools have some indication of where people are sitting in terms of where our school board leaders are. So, so that said, I think at this point we open it up to questions, and we will do our best, myself, Marvin, Alex, and then once any questions that have been asked and answered, I would encourage those that are interested in the Huddle platform, the Huddle opportunity, to stay on the line. We will leave it open for Alex to be able to answer any questions you have. I've seen how it works. It's great. Even the new camera they have, it's got software that allows the camera to follow the action. If it's mounted, you don't have to do anything. It's plug and play. But Alex is better on that than me. Anyway, so that said, yeah, we'll open it up to questions if there are any. I want to thank those of you who've taken the time to be on the call today for being with us. And for those who couldn't make it, a lot of coaching. We look forward to having you review this on YouTube and sending any questions our way.
So thank you, John. A quick question that I've had a few private messages in the chat. We've had a few folks wondering if we are able to share the document that Cass sent to you.
Let me, David was fine with me sharing that document today, but let me connect with him first because his preamble note was very specific around the document being received as information and not being used as an advocacy piece, just out of respect of the superintendents. So if I get there okay to share it, we certainly will.
Perfect, thank you. So at this time, if anyone has a question regarding any of the content that was addressed today, please either put it in the chat or you can use the raise your hand feature in your Zoom toolbar.
Okay, I see one there. Provincial volleyball championships may still be held even if some school boards have said no to tournaments. So what I'm aware of at this time is that, I'm not sure if it's both Calgary Public and Calgary Catholic, but Calgary Board of Education has said no tournaments until the end of January. But I have been in communication with my contact at Calgary Senior High Schools Athletic Association, and a decision on whether or not those teams, if Julie, I can't recall if you're from Calgary, the decision about whether or not those teams will be able to go to provincials would be possibly made at a later date, but certainly week-to-week tournaments. Thanks, Julie, I see that. Week-to-week tournaments, because when I saw that note, the first thing I did was I contacted CIAAA to see what it meant for provincials. So I believe that one of the challenges right now with CBE is they're not allowing any overnight stays. And so that if teams were going to go to volleyball provincials, the 4As, which are being held in Red Deer, then it would be an up and back in the day, up and back the next day, up and back the third day. And that I know that creates some travel challenges, but again, it's not definitely the way it would be, but certainly it is on the radar of the Calgary Senior High Schools Athletic Association to be prepared to answer the question on that. So it may be worthwhile, Julie, even reaching out to the CIAAA if they can, to see if they can provide an answer to you. That was a very good question.
Perfect, thanks, John. Again, for anyone else that would like to come on screen and answer or ask a question, you can use the reactions and then raise hand feature of the Zoom toolbar, or of course, drop a question in the chat.
Well, I'm really hoping then, seeing no questions, that schools will stay online and throw some questions at Alex. I'll stay online too. I'm curious to know what some of the questions might be for Huddle. If you're a football program, many of you probably use the program. When it comes to video exchange, Huddle makes it very, very easy for the video exchange, which you know has been a bone of contention between some football programs in the past. So at this point, if there aren't any other questions, I'll invite you to put some questions in the chat. And while you're doing that, if it's okay with you, Deanna, I'll just ask if Alex wants to take the mic and highlight any things that he feels might be valuable to folks. Because I know you had to rush through it pretty quickly, Alex, and we thank you for your sponsorship and we thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course.
And we thank you for being Canadian.
Love it. I'm glad to be back in the Canadian atmosphere and talking to fellow Canadians. So it's been a good 7 months since I've been back. So cool. Well, what I'm planning on doing is I'm just going to share my screen and just kind of walk through what the platform actually looks like. Can you everyone see my screen here? Yep, we're good. Cool. So I'll just run through a couple things, and then after I'm done, feel free to ask any questions. You can either raise your hand and talk on here, or you can just type something up and I'll do my best to answer any questions that are there. So this is what the platform looks like. This is the basketball platform specifically. I know a lot of I want to say like 99% of football teams in Canada and the US both have Huddle. So kind of want to talk more about the teams that aren't using it in Canada specifically, which are going to be your basketball and volleyball. So the platform looks like this. Left-hand side is going to be filtering. So this is how you can find whatever games you want to see, whether it's a game or a playlist that you create, or if it's scout film or even practice film if you're recording your practices. Events are going to be, this is your scheduled events. So this is how you can see what you have uploaded for those events. But we're just going to jump into this so you can actually see the video that comes from that focus camera and how you're able to filter through different events as well. All right, so it might be a little choppy because we're on Zoom, but it is 1080p. And as you can see, the camera's moving, panning back and forth, following the action. Once it gets to that side, it's going to zoom in a little bit so you can see closer. And then it'll transition once they go back down the court. But what's really cool is this filtering portion right here. So what you can do is you can filter by your team, individual athletes on your team, the opposing team, or individual athletes on their team. So for this instance, we can just filter by your team's defensive fouls. So then right here where it says 14 tags match the filter, that means that whatever you're filtering for, there's 14 of them. So it looks like this team had 14 fouls during this game. So then what you can do is either watch those fouls on this main screen here, or you can add to your clips over here, and then it'll put those 14 clips into a playlist for you. So then each of these clips are going to be short, 8 seconds long, where you can go in, add coaching notes, do different things like that. So let's move back here. So once you're done, you can either accumulate as many clips as you want if you want to highlight multiple different things, or once you're done, you can just exit out of that by hitting the trash button, and then it'll remove all those clips. So let's say that I'm a coach or I'm an athlete and I want to go see how I did this game in terms of my shooting. Right, so I can go and filter by myself and then go to attempts or makes, right? So you can really filter by anything you want to see here. So we have all field goal makes, 2-point attempts, makes, misses. This person didn't have any, so we'll just do the whole team so we can show you how this works. Shooting, then let's do 3-point makes. All right, perfect. So it looks like this team had 5 3-point makes. So on the bottom here, you can see where there's an assist tag to someone, and then there was a 3-point make, number 11. So if they wanted to go and add this to their highlights, simple as adding to your clips, go through there. You can see what it is. You can add comments, whatever, or you can just hit send to highlights. So then that's going to send those clips to your highlight reel, where then you can go in and manage them, reorder them, add effects, add music, whatever the athlete wants to do. Now you can do this for a lot of different things. What a lot of basketball coaches like is their inbound plays. So you can go and see your inbound plays from both the sideline and the baseline. This is also great for scouting. So if you're playing a team in the regular season and then you're going to go and play them again in playoffs, you already have one of their games, right? So you can go in and scout them, look at their inbound plays, look at their shooting percentages, what they're doing, so you can better prepare when you're playing them later on. A lot of schools also exchange video too. So if you're going to be playing another school, and both coaches agree, hey, let's exchange film so we can see what everyone's doing, you can do that directly through Huddle and then scout that as well. So you have multiple options within the video review player. I'm going to go back to the reports now. So the reports tab right here, this is where all of your actual stats are going to live. So click into the reports, it'll pull up your stats reports here. You can then go over on the left-hand side and filter by games. So you can choose what game you want to see your stats for. You can do the whole season. You can do a number of different things. So let's do all season here. Select those games. So now these are going to be your full season stats. So you can group by your opponents so you can see how your opponents are doing against you. You can also do by individual games if you want to compare games. You can do individual athletes if you want to see your athlete stats. And you also your lineups, because we do track lineups for basketball as well. So now what the really cool part about this is anything that's blue is hyperlinked directly back to video. So if you're an athlete, right, you wanted to create a highlight for the end of the season. So we'll say you select all your games, you want to look at all your big plays. So 3-point makes, looks like Billy Wilson had 10. Click that 10, it'll pull up all of that athlete's 3-point makes for the whole season. Right here in these 8-second clips, same thing, you can just send it to highlights, move on to the next thing that you want to look at. So when I was in high school, we did not have this stats thing. I wish it did, because it took me like a month to put my highlight together, but it just makes the athlete's life so much easier to, within 5 minutes, you can do a whole season highlights and you're done, have that sent off. So super helpful and efficient for that. Also, from the coaching side of things, you can go in and find things that you want to highlight for your season, right? So if it's turnovers, you can go to, let's see where the turnovers are, 4 factors, down 1 more, perfect. Okay, assistant turnovers. So it looks like Stevie had 22 turnovers this season, which looks like it's pretty substantial compared to everyone else. So if I was a coach, I could click on those turnovers, pull them up, create a playlist, share that with Stevie, go through each of those turnovers, see what's going on, see if there's any tendencies we can pick up or anything that we can fix so that we can limit those turnovers, right? So once you're done sharing a playlist, you can then share these playlists with either individual athletes or the whole team. Obviously, for like privacy reasons, if you just want to give one-on-one coaching feedback with just one athlete without the whole team seeing what you're saying, you can do that. If it's something that you want the whole team to look at and it's a good coachable moment for the whole team, you can also share that with the whole team as well. Now back to the reports. For basketball specifically, we have the shot chart. I touched on that a little bit, but everything again is linked back to video. So you can filter by the whole game or the whole season, sorry. Then that'll populate obviously more stats. The more games you have in here, obviously the more accurate it's going to be. You're going to have a greater data pool to pull from. Then you can also see your individual athletes' shot charts. So, I mean, every team has that kid that wants to pull up from half court and shoot 23s when they're 90% from the right block, right? So it's something physical that you can show them saying, hey, this is your percentages. I know like when I was playing football in college, the whole motto was the eye in the sky doesn't lie, right? That you may think that you're doing something until you watch it on video and it looks nothing like you remember doing it. So it's just tangible evidence that you can actually physically show your athletes so they can understand and improve and go on. So super cool. If you wanted to see these 55 clips, you could click that 75%. I'll switch over to volleyball real quick. So you can see what it would look like if you weren't recording with a focus camera. If you're just using an iPad on the baseline, this is what it would look like once you're uploading it into Huddle. Same thing in terms of the stats on the bottom here. So you're going to have all your stats when you submit it to Assist. Same filtering portion, which is perfect. So if we wanted to look at one athlete's offensive kills for volleyball, boom, pulled up. So let's see. So it looks like Aaron Freeman had 8 kills. So then what I would do if I was this coach, add to the clips, go and look at these. Now let's add some drawings and just like coach up this clip real quick. Okay, that looked like a terrible block from the opposite team. So let's say I'm the other team's coach, I'm watching this. So their block is wide open, right? The ball went right through it. So I could slow this down, freeze it right there, come to my drawing tools. For this case, I probably just use an arrow. So you can point out that gap where the ball went through. You can leave a comment just saying, close this block, save. Boom, save clip, go on to the next one. Took 5 seconds, right? So then when you go and share this playlist with your athletes or your team, when they go in and watch it, the video is going to pause right where you made those comments right there. So drawings there, comments here. Now the athletes can go in and reply to this. So a lot of coach likes to ask their kids questions like, what were you thinking here? Or why did you do this? And then they can go and answer. I know last year, obviously sports weren't played in Canada, but in the States it was, and they had a limited time with their athletes to meet in meetings. So they would do a lot of their sessions online through Huddle, just doing these clips, doing those coaching moments directly through Huddle. Now for volleyball, what the reports look like, it's going to be the same thing in terms of the stats. We just obviously track different things from service wins. We rate serves and serve receives as well, from a 1 to 4 scale. With volleyball, instead of the shot chart, you're going to get an attacks tendency report. So a lot of coaches were doing this by paper and pencil, which that's like a lot of effort, and I wouldn't understand any of my drawings. So props to all those volleyball coaches, but we were able to make it digital through Huddle. So what you can do is filter by different athletes. So helpful for a number of reasons. A, if you wanted to see your teams, you can see your attack tendencies. B, if you're scouting another opponent and you've played them or you're exchanging video, you can go and see, okay, who's going to be their biggest hitter, right? So you can go to your opponents. It'll list all of them from their attempt. So it looks like 14 and 15 are going to be their athletes that are going to be taking the most attacks. So then you can filter by those athletes. So if you wanted to see 14, you can go and see where they're hitting from. I mean, it's a pretty isolated group of data, so you know what they're going to be doing. The blue is going to be a kill, red is going to be an attack error, and then gray is a 0 attack, meaning that it was an attempt, but it was passed up and there was continuous play. So there's just a lot of information that you can go through and see. And also this is, again, linked back to video. So if you wanted to see those 7 kills, click that 7, it'll pull up those clips. You can look through them real quick, then come back to the stats again. That's just a really quick overview, but I'll open it up for questions and then I can kind of walk through anything else that anyone has. See if there's any questions. Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions for Alex, feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can just come on camera, unmute yourself and ask away.
Cool. All
Quick
right, well, if there's
question,
no, oh yeah,
question, Alex.
Yeah.
So if I'm the coach of the team and I'm signed up with Huddle, then how much of this work that you've shown us is done by Huddle, and how much does a coach have to go in and do themselves?
Yeah, great question.
And I know it
So,
probably depends on what level they buy in at, but I just thought I'd throw that out there.
yeah, for sure. So the Huddle subscription, that's the ability to have access to Huddle, to upload your videos. And what you can do is you can actually stat your games manually, which is what coaches used to do before Huddle Assist. So they would go into their video, watch everything that's happening. And this is also what our analysts are doing. And this button right here where it says add tag, they'd hit that. Okay, who's it for? Your team. What happened? It was a 3-point make. Who did it? The player, the spot, all that stuff. So coaches have the ability to do this themselves with just a Huddle subscription. Now the Huddle Assist portion, that makes it easier for coaches where they don't have to do anything. They just submit the game to Huddle Assist, and then our analysts go and do all the stats for them. So I'll pull up what it looks like to send a game to Assist. So you click the send to Assist button. Sorry, I did that pretty quick. Let me go back. It's just a habit. Clicking it. So you hover over the video that you want to send. Right at the bottom, it says send to Huddle Assist. Click that. It'll take you to this page where we'll just ask you some questions. So is it a game film? Is it a practice scrimmage? Or is it scout film? Meaning it's a game that you're not playing in, that you want broken down. And then from there, you select who you're playing against. So we know, because a lot of teams, if 2 teams send the same video to get broken down, if it's already broken down once it saves time, we don't have to duplicate the games being broken down. So that'll get sent back to them. So we ask you quarters or halves, jersey color, so we know who's who, final score for the game, and then just making sure that your roster's up to date so we can accurately track player stats. If a kid's wearing a different jersey this game for whatever reason, you can note that on this game so the stats don't get mixed up or we add it to an unknown player. Then once that's done, you just hit send to Assist, our analysts receive it, and then you'll get a message in an email saying your game's broken down and ready to be viewed. And then everything that I've showed you is going to be in your account ready to be looked at.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. We had a question in the chat from Brady who wanted to know if they should reach out to you privately to talk about pricing.
Yeah, so what I can do, I can show you what it would look like with the discounts. So the huddle or the athletic department package, that's more customizable to each individual school based off their wants and needs. I know, so Ross Shepherd, Harry Ainley, Lethbridge Collegiate, Lindsay Thurber, those schools are already on athletic department packages this year. So there are some schools in Alberta that are taking advantage of this. But in terms of like the actual pricing structure, let's pull this up. So these are the prices for subscription. So silver, gold, platinum. Difference is going to be your storage hours. So 100 hours, 200 hours, 500 hours. So through the partnership, you actually get 50% off of this. So instead of paying 900, you paid 450. Instead of 1600, you pay 800. Instead of 3,300, you pay 6,500. Now the Huddle Assist is dependent on the sport. So for basketball, this is the price. First off, this is everything that we break down for basketball. So shots, rebounds, shooting efficiencies, defense, turnovers, all that stuff. And then this is the pricing breakdown. So through the partnership with ASAA, basketball teams get $150 off of this. So instead of 900, it's 750. Same thing moving all the way up the board. Volleyball, if you're interested in volleyball. Scroll down here. These are everything that we break down for volleyball specifically. And then the prices, it's a little bit, it's a couple $100 less for volleyball, just because the amount of time it takes to stat a volleyball game compared to a basketball game is less. So the price is different, along with there usually being less games in volleyball than there are basketball. But with this, you get a $100 discount. So instead of 800, you pay 700, so forth and so on throughout. So if you want more details or for me to go into detail about the athletic department package or the focus camera, definitely feel free to reach out. I'll get John to send out my email address and also the PDF that I went over today, so that everyone has my contact info and can reach out if you have any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Alex, for this update. Is there any other final questions? All right, well, seeing no further questions, that brings us to the end of our town hall this afternoon. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. I know we covered a lot of information, so if you do have any additional questions on anything that we covered today, please feel free to send an email to our office, info@asaa.ca. You can reach me directly, Deanna, at asaa.ca, and we're always happy to help. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Stay safe, and we look forward to speaking with you all again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.